did really well. So within a couple of months, that was in March of '94, within a couple of months, got the call that, look, we're going to go ahead with this as a series, and you know, we're thinking that the team worked fairly well. If you're up for that, that would work really well. So I guess that would have been midsummer of '94. We started working on the shows, and it was a bit of a grind. It was interesting to me because there's a trade magazine in Canada called Playback, and there's a new show called Flashpoint, which is really the first show since Due South, I think, that's been airing as a primetime US network show that was all done in Canada. And in Playback, there was a whole thing about, it says, audio post people work at breakneck speed to keep up with US network, and I'm kind of going, I know what that's all about. It's exactly the same thing. It's taking things and doing them at a different level. And Paul had been, had a lot of success with US TV series, and they work at a very high level. They're very demanding, and often, you're really expected to come up with the goods really fast and do really well at it. And so we all had to elevate our game, I guess, between the three of us, Jack and John and I. And ultimately, it worked really well. Paul would give us, obviously give us good guidance when needed. And to make a long story short, we kept the gig. We didn't get fired. Paul liked what was going on overall, I think. And in fact, he really liked it. And he was a demanding person in many ways because he had a very clear vision. Once he had a clear vision of what was going on, he really knew what he wanted. And I believe that was, from what I observed, the case through all aspects of the show. And but that really was a big part of shaping that into a really good TV series. And it elevated us up to a whole other level than I think a lot of people were in Canada anyway at the time. And yeah, thumped away through the series, did the first season, 22 shows. The next season was a bit up in the air, and started off, it was kind of pulled from it. Maybe you know this stuff already, but I'll just reiterate what I know about it anyway. And it was brought back as a mid-season replacement. It was supposed to be, I think initially we were supposed to do 6 shows, and then they kept adding on to that. It really became ultimately pretty much a full season, which was 18 shows. And there was a year in between where people really didn't think Due South was going to continue. And then out of the blue, I got a call from Jack, and he said, well, they decided they want to do another 26 because they'd like to make enough shows that we go into syndication. And are you interested? You need to come back up to Toronto, et cetera, et cetera. So I did. We thumped away, and that was a more reasonable pace. Those last 26 were definitely not as under the gun time-wise. See, doing music, by audio post-production, what I'm referring to is all the final elements. The picture is all done. The picture editing is all done. Generally, what they call ADR, automated dialogue replacement, is all done. That means if they're on set and say Paul Gross or whoever does a line and it's not heard properly, if the wind blew in the microphone on set, then they have to replace it. And so the actors, whoever's line it was, would have to come in and repeat the line with feeling. Obviously, you're still acting and try to do the right thing with it. And then at the same time as the music is being done, the effects are being done. And often that means, okay, if there's a car crash and you're on set with a microphone, maybe it didn't sound all that exciting. So you need to spruce it up and make it, add another sound to make it come more alive. And with music, we were pretty much the last people in the chain. Everybody else gets everything done, and then it's like, hurry up and get done so we can do the final mix of everything. So often there's a lot of pressure on us a lot of the time. And which was good, I think, for the most part. I think we came through. We had some really tight episodes. The episode Victoria's Secret, which was ultimately a 2-hour movie. I mean, we had, I think, 6 days, not even 6 days, I don't know. It was something, it was all a blur because we were awake for many days in a row to get this done. And it was, thank goodness, there were 3 of us working on it, because if one person was getting a bit dozy, somebody else would sort of take the reins. And And a big part of that episode was Jack and his piano cues, because that was very indicative of the plot that was going on with Fraser's love interest and that kind of thing. But that was a really tight one. We had another episode in the second season that was ordered from CBS on fairly short notice, and we had 24 hours to do the entire score for one episode, which may not seem that extreme, but the average, what we were doing was generally trying to get the whole show written in 3, 4, 5 days, and then mix it in one day. And within the middle of that writing process, we'd get a first draft, and whoever's producing, I mean, Paul Haggis for the first 22, Jeff King for the next 18, Paul Gross for the final 26. They were the executive producers, and ultimately they were the people that had the final say on what was going on. They would come in during the process when we were getting to the point where we felt like we had something that was pretty much done. And then sometimes they'd like everything, and you know, not everything, but a lot of it, and would go, okay, you're on the right track, just mix it, or you know, do a little something here. Other times we need a little more work, and they kind of go, okay, we were picturing something a little more like this. Can you rewrite this and present it to us? And anyway, it was a lot of work. I loved working on the show. It was, you know, very intense a lot of the time. I learned a lot. I was surrounded by a lot of really smart people, and it totally expanded my world musically. You know, having come from a pop, rock / folk background, and dealing with things, you know, the math in pop music is generally in fours. It's all 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4. You can, you know, most songs that you would hear in pop music have that in whatever form of pop music. Whereas for television, if you're scoring to a picture, often you have to change according to the picture. So that means finding the right tempo. The first thing we would do, writing a piece of music, is find the right tempo. That was the key thing, which means we would get a click track down, beats per minute, and very exact on the computer. It would be, you know, you have to play the click, 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 click to the scene from where the scene is approximately starting and ending, and seeing how it works. And you just have to really absorb yourself in it and take a good look at it and go, okay, is this the right tempo? And you kind of go, no, they're moving faster, the pace is faster, we need to pick it up. It's got to be click, 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 click. It's got to be 140 beats per minute instead of 115 or whatever it is, you know, just using rough figures there. And so the tempo was the first thing. Then we would put down generally some kind of, if it needed a percussion track, we would put that down. But often the first thing put down, because the music score was so acoustic guitar based much of the time, I would put down my acoustic guitar in a rough fashion and put that down and make a, you know, a rough draft of what was going on musically. And then we'd take a look at it, we'd start to enhance it with things if it needed it. You know, sometimes just needed acoustic guitar. It was a lot of work for me as the acoustic guitar guy, because I was in a lot of the cues. And I did a lot of the electrics too. Although we did have other people come in as needed, you know, to add and enhance things. And yeah, ultimately, at the end of the day, I really enjoyed working on the show. It was a lot of fun. It was the kind of thing where the experience I got from that, I've been able to utilize in many other facets of music. I still consider myself primarily, well, largely a songwriter, although I have done a lot of scores for a lot of other TV shows since Due South.